Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Professor Hyung-Seok Choi at Korea University. I'm very glad to meet you all. And then we have 4 presenters today. The Professor Junesoo Lee from KDI school, and then Professor Nam Tae-woo from Sungkyunkwan University, Professor Kim Tae-hee from Seoul National University of Science and Technology, and then Ms. Lucy McTernan, who is the acting chief executive of the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organizations. We'll have 4 presentations consecutively, and then we'll have then Q&A, and then some discussion sessions. Professor Lee, could you get started?
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Choi. So let me share my screen and start my slideshow. Thank you once again for this opportunity. My presentation is titled Public versus Title. I'm sorry, Public versus Public, balancing the competing public values of participatory budgeting. As you may know, participatory budgeting has been started in Brazil in 1989, and it has been adopted by many countries in South America and Europe, especially in South Korea. First, it was adopted by a local government in 2003, and very interestingly, in 2011, PB system, participatory budgeting system, has been mandated for all local governments. So now, at this moment, all local governments are mandated to implement this PB system, participatory budgeting system. So for your information, let me very briefly introduce the annual process of PB system. Of course, it varies according to each local government, but generally speaking, it has a common sequence. So the very first stage, general citizens, they will suggest some public programs addressing local issues. Stage 2, so-called PB committee consisting of citizens, they will review the suggested programs and make some decisions to allocate budget. And the final stage, local council will review and approve the decision made by the PB committee. So it takes these 3 common stages generally. So the question we had was there were 2 research questions. First, what kind of public values are supposed to be achieved through PB system, participatory budgeting system? More specifically, what public values are complementary to each other, and what public values of participatory budgeting systems are competing with each other. And second research question was, what drivers help balancing the competing public values of participatory budgeting system? As the competition, this word imply there are many competing values even within the participatory budgeting system. So how can we balance these competing values in the participatory budgeting system? That is the second question. So sampling frame was, we asked all local governments to respond to our survey, but 229 public managers responded to our inquiry. Okay, let me skip some detailed statistics. Let me go to the findings. The very first finding, this graph shows us what public values were achieved in the PB system, what public values were not successfully achieved. These blue colored values were those successfully achieved through PB system. These red colored values are those negatively achieved in the PB system. So please guess their relationship between these public values. Very interestingly, statistically, there are some significant patterns of the competitions between these public values. This is a summary of the statistics. The arrows means the pairs of the public values which have some competing relationship between them. Instead of going into the details of each pair, let me give you some summary of the common findings behind these pairs of competitions. So the next question was what were the drivers for balancing the competing values? In other words, suppose there are two competing values, value 1, value 2. Each value can be achieved high or low. So the most successful local government will show a very high performance in both values. But some failures will occur when a local government achieved the low achievement in both the public values. So what we are interested in was that what drivers are behind this balancing two competing values of participatory budgeting system. So this is the result of the statistical analysis. Let me very briefly tell you what this table means. As you can see here, there are many pairs of competing values of a PV system. There are 9 pairs of competing values. And what we are also interested in, what variables are behind this balancing competing values. So these highlighted numbers represent the impact of the significant independent variable. As you can see here, the most significant independent variable turned out to be PB participant budget literacy. So PB participants, in other words, citizens who are participating in the PB system who have a high level of budget literacy is the secret behind the successful balancing between the competing values of PB system. And another set of the drivers behind the successful balancing is education for citizen participants. So this is another very significant, very noticeable driver. So with this in mind, let me go to the next slide. This is a summary of the findings. There are 3 main summary and 3 main findings and some implications. Very first, we can see kind of chicken or egg dilemma of the PV system, because as we have seen in this statistics, the most noticeable independent variable behind the successful balancing was budget literacy, but it got us in trouble. So in other words, the better budget literacy, the better balancing of the competing values. The new thing, it is some irony because citizens can have high level of budget literacy only when they participate in the budgeting process. So this got us in trouble, in kind of dilemma, a chicken or the egg dilemma. In order for citizens to high level of budget literacy, in the first place, they have to participate in the budgeting process. So, but there are many citizens who have participated in the budgeting process for the first time. In that case, they don't have any prior experience of budget literacy. So this is a chicken or the egg dilemma. Second implication or discussion is that in that that finding in mind, we have to specialize the PB system to foster individual citizens' accountability. So the PB system is widely known as a school of democracy. So if we suppose that if we apply PB system in all policy domains, very possibly, PB system may be challenged in terms of effectiveness or productivity. Because as we can see here, the negatively achieved public values are like lead time efficiency, channel efficiency, or cost efficiency. All indicators of efficiency turned out to be very negatively achieved in the PB system. So if we apply PB system in all policy domains, it's highly likely we will suffer from the lack of productivity or efficiency. Still, PB participants can experience as responsible members of the society. So my suggestion is that rather than expanding the PB system to all possible domains, it will be better for us to focus more on democratic and educational values of the PB system than on the efficiency or productivity. The last last implication is we can export PB element to local councils. PB system tend to overstep into the boundaries of local councils. This is very some dangerous, very risky signal. So it would be better for us to have local councils to adopt the methods and techniques of so-called micro communications with the general public that have been developed for the PB system. Well, because of the limited time, I delivered only the brief of the whole findings, so we can share more ideas during the Q&A session. Okay, thank you for listening. Let me start my presentation.
Thank you very much. You are very actually punctual in terms of keeping your time. Next presenter will be Professor Tae Kim from Seoul National University of Science and Tech. And then you have another 10 to 12 minutes. Yeah, please proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And for the people in the other side, I should say good morning. I really appreciate for having me in this great event. And my presentation is about the role of citizen engagement in finding innovative solution for local problems. So how can I manage this presentation slide movement? Oh, it's working. Okay, I'm sorry. So there are two important issues which any local entity try to address, which is how to solicit greater input from citizens and then how to better connect with citizens. So from the citizens' perspective, compared to the national central level of government, the local government should be the one who have very much close physical and emotional distance. However, there have been so many cases where citizens feel that their voices are not being heard by their local government. But the thing is, citizens are, the local government issue are the one that citizens are more likely to deal with on a daily basis. And then their issues are very much located close to their residence and places of employment. So we can expect that it's much more easy for individual citizens to develop strong view on how their local issue should be addressed and solved. So in this regard, I'm just going to move on to the next slide. How can I? Okay, so in this regard, in the field of public administration, as you know very well, wide agreement has been made for creating more venue to develop and foster citizen participation, especially in local government. And then in particular, one of the leading scholars, Hindi Schechter, kind of highlight the importance of owner-based model of citizenship, and then also their participation aiming at addressing social issue in their community. And then I'm not going to go over this slide because I believe that you know well about this particular concept. But the key point in here is that by making citizen engagement in government decision-making processes, they can send out some strong message that government are very much interested in promoting and supporting a representative bureaucracy. And then in particular, Hindi Schechter highlight that the very ideal type for citizen engagement should be the one which feature two-way interaction, two-way dialogue between government and citizens. Okay. Sorry. Can you help me go back to the previous slide? Okay. So, over the more than last 2 decades, there have been a variety of methods and approach to citizen engagement. So in particular, most of the country should have been using public hearing. But as you know but in case of the public hearing, usually government has already their own preset agenda, and then the participating residents are required to give their reaction to such initiative. So in this particular cases of citizen engagement, it should be considered as much more reactive than proactive. And then also only residents who are time-wise affordable to attend public hearing can make voices. And then we can use citizen survey. In fact, in South Korea, most of the local government has been very much actively using citizen satisfaction survey, but still in this case, citizens' input are very much limited by the survey question which government chose to include in their survey. So still, either public hearing or citizen satisfaction survey are ways to inform citizen about government agenda or concert with citizen, but it's not a proactive way, right? So, but there are some other interesting cases of citizen participation using information communication technology, like America Speaks in Seoul's Oasis system. So, which is kind of very much innovative way for having a dialogue between government and citizens. And recently, social media platform has been widely used as well. And for here today, I'm trying to add one more outlet, which is called Living Lab. So I'm so sorry because I don't know how to manage this slide. Thank you so much for helping with that. Okay, so so as for the Living Lab, I believe that most of you attending this event have much idea about this one. So the Living Lab has been received so much attention from academia and practitioner because this is one of the best way of considering citizen as a co-partner of knowledge creation. So it has been recognized as a very good new platform for citizen participation, in particular, co-identifying the local issue and then also finding solution for such issue. So we can consider this Living Lab as a one good way of collaborative innovation approach. And then for today, I prepare 2 example cases where residents play a very much leading role in designing and developing innovation from the first hand, which include, can we move to the next slide? Yes, the first case is Seongdae-go Energy Self-Reliance Village. Okay, so Seongdae-go is very much small size village located in Seoul with a population of like 50,000. So, and then there is some background information I would like to highlight in here. So in this particular local area, they have a prior experience of citizen engagement. So in 2009, there was a swine flu outbreak in Seoul. So most of the daycare center has been closed. So the local family, local parents group in this area, they started to have a discussion about the innovative ways to address that issue. So they agreed to establish a local library for children so that they can replace the government services for that area. So interestingly, the parents group in this local area, they successfully raised a certain amount of money for establishing the local library for children, which is almost about 20 million Korean won. So the reason why I'm highlighting this case is that through this previous experience of citizen engagement, they came to have a mutual trust among local residents, and then also they can successfully build a sense of community. And then at the same time, in that particular period, they kind of have an agreement about the need to find energy saving ways. Because after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, it's kind of raised awareness about the importance of finding ways to save energy, and then in particular, finding ways for energy-wise sustainability. So luckily enough, in that particular year, one policy research institute in South Korea, they start a big initiative, which is called Citizen Research Project. So they're trying to provide much support for innovative project, in particular, the project for introducing resident-driven living lab for innovation. So I'm sorry for mismanaging this slide. So in order to participate in that project, they established one council, which is called Energy Transformation Council, which is composed of local resident and a social tech entrepreneur, and then the local government counterparts, and some people from academia and non-governmental organization. So which is very much interesting composition in here. And they studied best practices, national and international one. And then they even participate in East Asia Climate Forum so that they can have more understanding about the energy related issue. And then also the local resident actively participate in several forums and workshops hosted by research institute and university and even government. So the next, one of the particular activity I would like to highlight in here is that they have 7 workshops, tech-related local workshop, where in total 179 residents participate, which is a lot, right? So through that workshop, they could understand why we need to care about energy saving issue, and then how we can collaborate it to address that issue. And then another workshop has been followed where local entity and business partner has an opportunity to discuss ways to solve this issue. And then through that workshop, they kind of have an agreement that one of the best way to solve this issue is to install the solar panel, residential solar panel, because through their research finding, they kind of understand that using solar panel will be the best way to reduce the energy use. So what I'm trying to highlight in here is that in this case, the resident law is not just providing their reactive opinion to the government agenda, but they became a leading law as informant, and then they even a tester of this new technology, and then also they actively contributing to this new technology proliferation, and then also they work as a co-creator. So next slide. So, through the case review, this is one of the enabler I have identified. And then as I highlighted, one of the enabler that make the successful citizen engagement using Living Lab is that most of the residents in this area, they have common interest and a shared understanding of the given issue. And then also they have previous experiences of citizen engagement. And then using focus group, they could engage some other interest party, which was really a successful key factor for this case. And then so they could reflect on their individual experiences, and then using focus group and workshop, they could even foster social learning. So which was really interesting. And then obviously there have been strong municipality level of support. So government has been acting role as a coordinator. So they coordinate partnership with varying stakeholders, and then they provide guidance if necessary. So that was one of the key enabler I want to highlight. And then the other case is, could you move to the next slide? Okay, so before addressing the second case, this is one of the key output I want to highlight. So one of the interesting activity they have made is that they post their monthly electricity bill on the library so that they can compare with each other as to how much electricity they have reduced so far. So if there have been one key performer in that area, then they even awarded them with some cash amount, like identifying them as energy efficiency king or prince of the month, which is interesting. And then also they initiated a lights out movement. So they chose one particular day, and then on that particular day, all the lights will be turned off. So that was one of the innovative way they came up with as a energy saving way. So, and then also they successfully joined the MOU among the interest party. So through these output, they could achieve a huge amount of outcome, which is obviously energy saving at the top. And then also they even contribute to job creation in that local area. Could you move to the next one? Okay, and then the second case I prefer for today's review is that Junesoo project, which is another interesting one. So the Junesoo is a case of Yuseong-gu, Daejeon. So Daejeon is a small-sized municipality with a population about 3,500,000 population. Anyways, this locality is very much famous for high-tech industry. So there are so many tech-centered university like KAIST and some other research institute. So meaning there are so many tech-savvy people in this area. So there was one contributor. And then also at the time, there was an open source project which government disclosed their public data, and then also even software source for free, so that application developer can actively use it to develop their another app and software. So through that open source initiative, we can achieve a certain level of interplay between social capital and information technology, so which was another enabler. And then same as Songdaego's cases, they also have prior experiences of citizen engagement. So in case of social spaces design school, which is very much small size experiment, but they could identify and examine underused spaces and search for innovative idea. So anyway, I will do my best to finish within the time limit. Okay, so in this case, what they are trying to do is that they are trying to find solution for the floods related incidents, because in this particular area, there have been frequent flood and rain. So that has resulted in so many life loss. So some student group, with the citizens, local residents. So they kind of form a meeting where they can discuss ways to solve this issue. So they check the overflow condition of the river so that they can check what amount precipitation would cause this overflow. And using ultrasonic sensor, they counted and measure foot traffic. And then so using this information, they develop a web-based application where local residents can check the safety status of the river and stream in that area. So even though this application has not been used to a greater extent later on, but this kind of have create a big momentum where local government need to do better for responding to this issue. So eventually this movement has resulted in securing budget of more than $8 million for constructing the bridge in that particular area. So the final slide. So same as in here. So one of the enabler is the financial and administrative support for the local government for the success of citizen engagement in here. And the living lab, even though this is small size experiment, but it was really helpful for engaging citizen in actual decision-making processes. And then their previous experiences was another enabler, because through that experiences, they could build trust and sense of community. So that was all I want to highlight through these two cases, and that's what I have prepared for today.
Thank you so much.
You can just read it.
I think you have one question using the Q&A. Where's the slot? Next, we will invite Professor Nam Tae-woo from Sungkyunkwan University. You have another 10 to 12 minutes. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you for introducing me. My name is Tae-woo Nam. I'm working for Sungkyunkwan University. Can I share my PowerPoint slide, or someone will take an order? How can I show my slide?
You haven't already sent it. I think you can. Someone gives you the authority as the president.
Yeah. Please, organizer, can I have authority to share my slide?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I switch? Can I turn the page? No.
If you just say next slide, I'll
Okay, I
first.
see. Okay, it's very inconvenient. I'm saying, okay. Yeah, my title is Platforming Local Level Public Participation. So the local public participation is very different from the central level or federal level or national level participation, as you already know. Because the local level, as you know, is about the frontline services and also frontline interaction between citizen and government. But it's quite different context. So my idea is, how can Korean governments, Korean local governments, can make the platform the local level public participation. So I will show some ideas. Actually, that is not my personal idea, but also the Korean public agency, Korean regional informatization agency. That agency is the public agency of Korean Ministry of Korean Interior and Public Safety. So that public agency and myself, our collaborative idea. So I want to introduce that idea, platforming local level public participation. Okay, next page. Please, next page. Okay, next one. Actually, I have so many wasteful pages, so I have to say next. Okay, next page. All of these things are I meant the platform is a fancy word, buzzword. So many of governments, governance, and governing bodies, so many organizations want to be a platform, such as Google, such as in Korea, the photo site Naver, something like that. Okay, next page. The platform, technically saying, it is a match of buyers and suppliers that transact directly with each other. That is one very important characteristic, buyer and supplier matching together at the same time. And platform is considered a nexus of rules and infrastructure that facilitate interaction among network users. And third one is third-party participation. So anybody can join the platform. That is very interesting type. And first, it is a complementary products and services can be founded. Okay, next slide. There are some key concepts. First one is modularity. Module. So modularity means the degree to which a system's components may be separated and recombined. Think about the Lego, the children's gadgets, the play. The module is almost the same concept. So we can make it flexible and we can make some various. So it is concept is the degree of interdependence and also independence. So that is modularity concept. And in the interface and flexibility, there is another very key concept of platform. And finally, two-sided network effect. That is very important. Host pull guests, and also in turn, guests can pull hosts. Okay, next slide. I'm sorry, next one. As I mentioned earlier, there are very important terms: rule, norm, architecture, and market. So if you have some time, you can read it. And then there are two principles: transparency and participation. This is a key idea of a platform. The platform is very related to, or can be very well connected to, participation itself, because participation and transparency is already very important spirit of a platform and democracy. And the next one, next slide, please. So my research in question is very simple. How can Korean governments, actually the right side, two emblem logo of Korean government. So Korean governments, how can Korean government can follow after or resemble or learn from the successful platform companies? That is very easy question. Okay, next slide. There are so many issues and agendas. For example, transparency issues. And if we say platform idea, the concept, core and peripheral are very important one. In that case, what is core and what is peripheral of the public sector? What can be considered as peripheral? Because peripheral is very important concept. If we consider peripheral, we can make anything flexible. Core cannot be flexible, but peripheral can be flexible if we say that is peripheral. But what is peripheral and what is core of hardcore public sector? That is very ambiguous. Okay, next slide. And also there are some issues of platforming in terms of public policy. For example, what level and what kind of regulation can be applied, and market share. This is a new market or existing market, because usually platform means winner takes all. In that case, government can ruin anything, because now we are talking about government's coordination, governance, but platform is not really compatible with the governance, because platform can ruin any other competitors. So there are so many issues. Okay, next slide. I'm sorry, next one. Next one, please. I observe how government can use the platform idea in this kind of four functions. First one is ideation, and second one is opinion, such as online petition, and third one is transaction, procurement platform, something like that, and also public service delivery, welfare platform, and education platform. For example, MOOC, massive online open course, that is educational platform. So my idea is transactional platform, public service delivery platform is already existing. Ideation and opinion is already existing too, but ideation and opinion in the local level, that is my focus area. Next slide. So local level public participation. Focus on ideation and opinionation related to the public policy and services. But as I mentioned earlier, local autonomy can be damaged by platform democracy, because platform means a winner takes all. And in Korea, who is interested in real local matters? Actually, many people are more likely to be interested in the central level government matters or the national policy, national politics, not really local matters. But I think the reason is we don't have the really good local channels for public participation. Okay, next slide, please. So local governments can have two approaches. One is platforming the existing portal site or existing apps of local governments. And the second approach is local governments could use the existing platforms of transaction and communication. So existing private companies' platform can be used for government purpose. So which approach can be more successful? In the side of accessibility, convenience, sustainability, ease of use, local-based, reliability. Next slide. The public agency that I mentioned earlier, that public agency and we collaborated on this idea. So Naver and Kakao is Korean instant messaging service. Naver is Korea's biggest portal site. So Korea is a unique country in OECD country because Naver is #1 search engine in Korea because we are using Korean language. In terms of Korean language, this search engine is better than Google. So many people are using Naver portal site. And also this is a mega platform. We can payment and shopping, knowledge base. So Naver is not only search engine and portal site, it can be everything, almost department store. Kakao is overarching many things, banking, shopping, gaming, and content and user created contents. And Dangun Market is locality specified transaction site of used item. It is very rising star in Korea. Important thing is locality specified. So it is automatically linked to the local ideas. And finally, actually, one more thing is, the screen is now deleted a little bit down bottom side. The final one is 배달의 민족 in Korean, the 배민 is delivering service. This is also local-based services. And the next slide, please. So I think this is the final slide. The platforming strategy for local level public participation. This is just idea because local governments cannot approach to the very big platform organization, platform companies such as Naver, Google, Facebook, but national level government is now approaching to these kind of organizations for collaboration. For example, private platform companies, they can take the data from the people's opinions and ideas, and then they can use that data. And also, they also contribute data to the local governments. This is the civic input, something like that. And then local level governments, they can use this data for the policy analysis and policy evaluation. So idea is we can get ideas and opinions from citizens at existing popular platforms, not platforming currently existing local level governments. We use existing popular platforms at the private sector, and citizens themselves cannot need to, they don't need to categorize or classify their ideas. For example, I need to click welfare. We don't need to do that, actually. AI-based system, they automatically categorize and classify the people's ideas. And big data will be accumulated, not only the text mode, but also, more importantly, images, photos, videos, voices, any types of unstructured data can be accumulated and analyzed with AI. An important thing is location-based service. So this enables local level government public participation. And then what is more important? Okay, immediate civic input. Civic input, many times, civic inputs are delayed. So delivered to the local level government, but delayed. But this one is real-time, immediate civic inputs are reflected in the local acceptance from the local level governments. And also, local level small and medium-sized government, SME, those small, medium-sized entrepreneurs, they will get some ideas from using this platform. So what is niche market and what is the real demand of the residents? They can know that. And also the voluntarism, civic sectors, they will know who is a real minority and what is the weak point of local level governments. And also participation can be tokenizing, mileage point, and they can use the blockchain and non-fungible token, NFT, can be used, this kind of platforming governance concept. I'm sorry, I'm a very hurried mob, actually, we don't have much time, but if you have some question and comments, I can be more than welcome. So, okay, thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much for the nice presentation. I think we'll invite the fourth presenter, Ms. Lucy McTurnan. You have another 10 to 12 minutes for your presentation. Yeah, please proceed. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's very nice to meet all of you as well. Thank you very much for the invitation to present today. I'm very, very pleased to be part of this OGP Academy, having been at a couple of them before and found them to be very stimulating. Firstly, I should say a little bit about myself. My background is indeed, as the agenda paper for today says, in leadership positions in civil society organisations in Scotland, where I'm speaking to you from, most recently running the network body SCVO, the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations. But in fact, I'm currently on academic sabbatical in the closing stages of a PhD at the University of York. And I decided to step back from the front line and do research because I became very interested in how ideas and innovations in local development were actually shared and spread between people. And we've heard already in this very interesting session today, some excellent local level development, often citizen-led, or at least involving citizens or their representatives. But how does this happen? How does it come about? What inspires change? For many local activists, myself included, the answer is that inspiration comes from other civil society activists, from nearby countries and regions, yes, but also increasingly from many other places across the world where the contexts may be different, but the challenges are often very similar. Most global fora, intergovernmental organisations, summits and conferences now welcome engagement with civil society to a greater or lesser extent. Through civil society representatives, people's voices are being heard on the great issues of the day to a much greater extent than ever before. It's not without its frustrations, of course. The COP26 summit just finished here in Scotland was criticised by some for the lack of access for civil society activists to some of the core negotiations. But civil society and citizens were nevertheless very much in evidence in the city, in the venues and in the media, all around the summit and its discussions. What my research has shown is that just as important as the protesting, lobbying, and where possible, engagement with governments that happens at these kinds of events is in fact the networking and solidarity building between civil society itself. These sorts of events create and accelerate connections between people and groups which transcend national boundaries and allow people active in their own local spaces to learn from and be inspired by others. This is obviously massively assisted by technology, as we heard from the immediately previous presentation, and the ability to talk online and share and access information and examples of good practice has terrifically accelerated the rate at which we can share. But my point is that while activists' main focus on a day-to-day basis be their own local community, their neighbourhood or city, they can benefit greatly from engaging with global networks and fora. All these discussions that happen in global fora aren't just global in nature, they're also local. Just today, an article from an Edinburgh University observer at COP26 has covered the fact that most climate action actually takes place at local level. And some of the examples we heard from Professor Kim's presentation, I think just prove that. But just as is the case at local level, citizen and civil society engagement with global agendas can arouse criticism of civil society itself. Who are these people, we are asked? Are they truly authentic voices? What right do they have to be involved in these conversations? My research over the last couple of years has shown that to some degree, this criticism has been warranted. Many interviewees remarked on an apparent disconnect between global dialogue and local level realities. People spoke of a clique or a cadre of professional civil society representatives, often working for or supported by big international NGOs. The good news, though, is that civil society has largely acknowledged this, and there are significant ongoing efforts to ensure that voices in global arenas are truly representative, not only because that is the right thing to do, but because it is so much more powerful and influential when key messages are delivered directly by the people who are directly concerned. In fact, a key find of my research is that the dominance of INGOs, international NGOs, is receding as many local level, otherwise very domestically focused civil society organisations are breaking through into global debates. There is less need for their involvement to be mediated by intermediaries and many more opportunities to connect directly. Why are they doing this? Well, aside from the opportunities to learn and to be inspired, what I also found is that some activists saw global engagement as a way to unlock problems at their own national or local level. Where relationships had soured with national or local governments, then one way to kickstart them was to prompt pressure from outside, either neighbouring countries or perhaps global institutions. Academics Keck and Sikkink observed this technique back in the 1990s and coined the phrase boomerang effect to describe how global agendas can be manipulated for local impact. My research has shown that its use is flourishing, aided by the ease with which we can now share stories and use social media to either shame or ideally positively encourage governments into change. To apply this directly to the open government agenda, and in my role as a member of the Global Steering Committee of OGP, I'd specifically like to welcome the recent innovation of extending open government partnership membership to local level governments and their civil society partners. With 56 new local members, a total of 76 in all, of which Scotland, where I live, is one, we're already seeing the flourishing of a community of activists, reformers from civil society and inside government structures who are learning from each other, being motivated by each other, and also innovating in a way which has much to teach other levels of government, national and global. It provides an environment for the ideas and innovations, such as the ones we've heard outlined in this session today by fellow panelists, to thrive. One final point in this brief presentation before we move on to discussion. You'll have noticed that throughout I've referred to civil society and civil society representatives. This is in contrast to citizens as partners with government. To a degree, this may just be a language issue and the terms be considered interchangeable. However, it is my view that it's worth clarifying that at least in the OGP model, and as the focus of my own research, we're talking about people who are representative groups and organisations that have already come together as an association through common interest and have the opportunity to discuss and to deliberate and formulate collective views, as opposed to individual citizens who may have the opportunity to participate in local decision-making in other ways, such as participatory budgeting, which we've heard about, or be selected by virtue of their own characteristics as representative of the community to be part of a citizens panel, jury, or citizens assembly. Where the two ideas connect is that civil society can and does press for the use of such mechanisms to involve individual citizens, as we have successfully done here in Scotland, where participatory budgeting was a commitment in our first OGP National Action Plan, and building on a series of citizens' assemblies is very much part of the plan we've just finished co-creating. Both, I might say, ideas are multi-stakeholder forum adopted and adapted from elsewhere in the world, learning, as I've said, from our involvement in the wider global community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your research and experiences in Scotland. These 4 presentations has left us only a few minutes for our Q&As and discussions, but we have around 50 participants watching this session. Then now the session is open for every participant for their Q&As and discussions. Please identify yourself and then raise your questions or comments, please. Okay.
So we
Okay.
have a,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Can I? So we have
No,
a
I think you can do that.
Thank you. So we have a question from the floor about the ways to conduct a much more larger size of living lab. And then I think Lucy kind of provide a solution for that. So by having much more greater forum and or a network where interest party can share their experiences and their idea, then we can expand our efforts to a much more greater level. And then also I think there should be a good partnership where between government and citizens, and then as Lucy highlighted, some local activists can one of the good partner, and also non-governmental organization and NGO. So there should be a good partnership among these interest party, and then especially government themselves should view citizen as their good policy partner. Then it's gonna be, I mean, the greater level of citizen participation can be made in a successful way, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions? I think you can look for the Q&A slot to check the questions or comments being raised by the participant.
I'm reading a question raised by Nada Jodi. He or she is asking about the risk of the involving citizen participation. So I don't believe I can answer perfectly to that question, but I want to share one of the ideas behind the challenges of citizen participation. That is about representativeness. Representativeness is much more complex than we imagine, because according to some research, there are at least 5 or 6 different types of representativeness. So most widely used representativeness is based upon socio-economic background, like a gender or age or some income level, something like that. But beyond this socio-economic representativeness, there are many other types of representativeness, For example, expertise representativeness, or their stake or interest representativeness, or the so-called PSM representativeness, public service motivation representativeness. So there are so diverse representativeness. The thing is that these different types of representativeness are colliding with each other. So my core message is that we should keep ourselves from being naive when we define representativeness, especially because one of the biggest advantages of citizen participation has been known as the representativeness. So this is a very new challenge we have to keep in mind and deal with in our effort toward a wider and better citizen participation.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, we are running on a rather tight time constraint, but we'll wait another 5 seconds, and then if we have the question or comments, and then we'll move on with that questions or comments, but otherwise we'll wrap up our session.
Well, I just wanted to highlight one more thing in relation to Nada's comments. So already Junesoo talked about, Dr. Junesoo Lee talked about that issue. So when it comes to citizen engagement, sometimes when we are dealing with much more complicated policy issue, citizens' educational level and then their literacy in that particular policy topic may be an issue that needs to be addressed in advance. So in case of the participatory budgeting cases in South Korea, as far as I know, local government has provided some training, educational session targeting that participating citizen, right? So that can be one issue we need to somehow consider in this topic.
Yeah, at the central level, the policy making, they are working on rather abstract dimensions of the policy making issues, but at the local level, they have very specific claims on very specific interest. Oftentimes, so we have sometimes a so-called street fighting pluralism, and then we all watch that, and that's one of the criticisms against the participatory budgeting. In some cases, that's become a channel for very specific, specialized interests.
I absolutely agree with that. When we ignore such a different level of knowledge or literacy or some other background, highly likely we can aggravate power imbalance among the participants. So I agree with that.
Do we have any further questions or comments from participants or audience? Okay, would it be okay for me to call it a session? Yeah, okay. I just got a message from the organizer that I have to wrap up the session. Okay, I really thank you very much for very nice presentations. I think this is a session where we can actually take a look at the local citizen engagement from actually various standpoints. It was very useful and fruitful, I believe so. Thank you very much, and then we'll see you around. Thank you very much, especially from the participant from Scotland.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah, bye.